All right, good morning, everybody. I think in a very natural way, you just finished up saying hello to each other. So that was very good. You got the fullness of it. Hopefully, you said hello to somebody that you wanted to see because you missed them, but you also said hello to somebody that you don't normally say hello to. And so that way we just really get a full, greeting here this morning. Well, it is great to be a part of the family of Christ, isn't it? And it's good to be a part of our fellowship. And so I would like to just share a few little stories. I was gone, obviously, for a while. I think, maybe 5 Sundays. And a couple of different locations. And the first one was the Philippines. Now, I had some notes that I took of a few stories, but I didn't happen to spot those right away on my little note thing. But what happened is when I went over there, I just went to visit the pastor that I know and the church that I know that he pastors. And of course, I've developed friendships in the church over there in the Philippines. And I don't think I shared with you the history before, but the church over there began actually through prayer, because there was one time that I went to my bank and the Filipina manager, she said, "John, I just wish that you could start a church where my family is." And she was describing the place in the Philippines where her family was. And I just thought, wow, well, maybe I'll pray about it. What do you say, right? I'll pray about it. But it's also, people don't always ask you, I wish you would start a church, right? And so when I would drive past the bank, not that I didn't ever go into the bank, but when I would drive past the bank, just that quick prayer, Lord, if you want me to start a church there, open the doors. And so it was about 2 years of praying that same kind of prayer as I would drive past the bank. And then one day I go into the bank, and Cecile, who I just actually bumped into recently, she says, "I'm going to go see my family in the Philippines." And then I said, "Well, can I come too?" And she said, "Yes." And so I believe it was within a week and a half, I got 7 people together, and we all went to the Philippines. And so that was a quick one. And then one of the guys who actually lives in Dallas here now, he goes, "I think I'm supposed to be the pastor." And I go, "Okay." And he says, "But my wife is going to say no." So he calls her from the Philippines, and she says yes. He's blown out of the water. But 1 year later, after they got out of debt and got there, 1 year later, they're there, and she's crying for the first 3 months, realizing, that she's in another part of the world. And but of course, as the years went on, she got accustomed to where the Lord had her. And so the church gone through a lot of changes over the years. And it was interesting because Pastor Eddie, who's the pastor now, and he's been the pastor there for most of the time of the church, but he wasn't the original pastor. And so it's interesting when you are doing planting like that, of trying to find the right people, the right fit for everything to work out. And I couldn't explain to you all the details. Some of them might even make you laugh. But Eddie was interesting because when I had first went to the Philippines and I had thought about, this church planting thing, and I was visiting another church, I thought, okay, that guy is the pastor. And years later, the same guy that I thought that, and at the time he was like 20 years old or whatever, and boom, then he becomes the pastor there. And so Eddie, by the way, just to get a picture of the church there is small. You guys are familiar with small. And the church there averages maybe 30 people. Maybe there's about 50 people in the church. But most of the Filipinos have to work on Sunday. And so that's his frustration, is people are always working. But even though they work, they always connect with the church. Like, they help with the food outreach. Nobody doesn't go to church type of thing. Meaning they might not have been at Sunday service, but they're involved in helping with Vacation Bible School or this or that. And of course, when they're off work, they're trying to be there as well. So, but that's obviously frustrating for a pastor because you just want everybody there when you're, giving a message. And so that's the way that the church has been. But one of the things that they do, and this small little fellowship of just normal Christians that love the Lord, is they do outreaches every week in these squatter villages. Now, I would have to say that the church over there is a very poor church as far as financially, and in need of help themselves. And so lots of encouragement, lots of whatever the Lord wants to do as the future goes on. And I have some plans in mind that I'm going to be seeing fulfilled in the next few years for them. But they do these outreaches in these squatter villages, and they do a few different things. And they do them every week, and sometimes twice a week. And they'll do it for about 300 kids, even in one location. And this is the norm every week. So even though the church is 30 to 50 people, the outreaches are to the hundreds every single week. And you'll go as, they're putting together food, and they feed everybody every week, all 300, including parents that come in and everything, and even a lot of Muslim parents. And they will do like vacation Bible schools several times a year. So all these kids in these villages, squatter areas, they know all of the kids' Bible songs and the kids' Bible, signs and dances and stuff like that. And they look forward to it. And, over the years, I've been able to provide little chairs for the kids, and then they'll always bring them so the kids can sit down. But it's just a good thing. And Pastor Eddie sends me pictures almost every week of, little video, little picture of, and when you see it, it's like something that you would be familiar with, in watching something on TV of some faraway mission that everybody's being fed and encouraged, and the kids are all happy and that kind of a thing. And so it's just, it is encouraging. I mean, in fact, there's too much encouragement. There's so much encouragement that sometimes I take weeks to look at some of the pictures, and you know how that goes, right? We get a little behind, and then I'll do my little like and little heart and little, oh, that's great, kind of a thing. But Pastor Eddie enjoys the encouragement as often as I can get there, as well as other leaders around him and his family. And then I'm able to do things for them. Like, for instance, they had never went bowling before. And so I took him and his wife and kids bowling. And I mean, the first time around, it turned out that they looked pretty good, as if they had done it before. But they were just thoroughly enjoying it. And so it's even something as simple as that, in being a blessing to a family, that does family things and likes to do family things, but things that maybe, they can't normally afford to go bowling. And so the Lord is so good. And now here was a big one, though. A couple of years ago, somebody paid for them to go on a trip to Israel. So the husband and wife, having never been out of the country, get to go and do something like that. You can imagine what a highlight, not just Israel, but the fact of just traveling internationally. And but it is interesting how the Lord opens doors in our lives and has us doing things that we would have never thought. And he just, just does beautiful and great things, and does them through us, and does them in this world, and does them for us to bless us. And it's such a great thing. And there are times, though, that I've thought about it, and I've looked at some of the pictures and the videos, and of course I've been there myself, so it's like I'm picturing it firsthand. And I think, oh gosh, that'd be so neat if I could just show a couple of those pictures or a video over at my church, just so that way, at Christmas time, if they understood, what a blessing this is, and that these kids are all going to get toys and stuff like that, and so in fact, I used to do that. I used to provide like hundreds of boxes of toys to be distributed, and different cosmetic items and stuff like that at Christmas time. And so if you ever think about it, it is a church that, and I want to say, on the simple basis that I planted it, but I didn't. I was inspired and prayed and then did the motions that needed to be done to see that it was planted, and God planted it, right? We plant the seed, we water, God brings the increase. And over the years, even though it has remained a small church, but it's great teaching, it's great worship, people are great personalities, fun place to be. And yet, imagine being so small but having such an incredible impact. And if we can get a water for me, Wade, I appreciate that. I have no idea why I'm drying up here. Anyway, so then after the Philippines, I traveled over to, and my daughter had just had a new baby. I think the baby was 3.5 months old. And of course, you know, you want your dad to see the new baby. Her name is, thank you. And I just couldn't get that name as a first thought in my mind. I would just keep thinking. And then I go, no, I know it's a sh sound. It's not sh. And so it took me a bit, but she just is the cutest little girl, and you know, just smiles at you. I mean, she just really almost never stops smiling. And so fun, enjoyable. And then my daughter, she says, oh, I want you to come at Christmas, Dad. You know, I didn't say anything because I'm thinking, I know my daughter over here, and Phyllis is having me at Christmas, and I understand, but that's not so easy to do. And but she was just very touched being far away and having, you know, that sense of home. And so and without exaggeration, I mean, she definitely said things that showed how much this meant to her to have her dad there. And so by and large and completely, it was a nice trip. Learned to use a little train system. She had a train near her house and took it to the mall, you know, kind of things. And so I can get around. And then after I went to and helped my mom get out of her house. And those of you that were here last week, she was here last week this morning. I had a breakfast prepared for her. She was actually dressed and ready to go, but her stomach didn't feel good. And not like you or I, where maybe we'll be a little baby. Oh, I'm not going to go to church. My stomach doesn't feel good, you know. But, you know, if somebody gave you free tickets to whatever, it's like, oh, I feel great, you know. No, and you might not feel great, but you're just willing to feel better, you know. And but as you get older, I mean, if your stomach doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. It's, you know, you're more stuck in certain things, and so it's hard. But anyway, so but I was able to bring her here, and then that is an easy adjustment, but of course its own adjustment as far as realizing that, you know, I'm looking after her, but it's such a blessing. And I did pray ahead of time because, you know, you can foresee and picture, and even though our personalities don't clash or anything like that, but I just said, Lord, I just really want her to feel loved and taken care of, you know. And so so I'm trying to just really have that be my focus, because a lot of times we can make people feel uncomfortable, you know, and we can, and it's so nice when somebody makes you feel like you're at home. So, but of course that transition takes, I'm sure, months, you know, because even though they were here for my dad's cancer treatment previously, but they still lived in their house in California. They were just here. And so now that she's here, but she realizes she doesn't have him anymore, and this is her life now, you know, that right there is a flip-flop of newness and thinking. All right, so not that you need to know everything I just said here, but kind of brings you up to date in where I've been and what's going on with me.